All right, welcome back to Occult Perspectives. I'm on a roll today. Just did the final video for the Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time. So let us go ahead and jump into Majora's Mask. This is the opening video before you get to the menu. There's Majora's Mask. A little bit about the mask itself. Before we even get into it, it will come up in one of these cutscenes. But some interesting lore about it is an ancient tribe sealed away this dark power in this mask. Essentially, it was used for hexing rituals and such. Very, very interesting stuff. We'll get more into that later. This is Clock Town. It's divided into 4 sections, of course, north, south, east, and west. We'll get into a little bit of the symbolism on that. Link, in this story, this one's a lot darker than the Ocarina of Time on all levels. Because there's an impending apocalyptic doom, these are some of the characters that Link interacts with. And although there's so much darkness in this game, something that's often overlooked, but a lot of the people who do lore and stuff do cover this, is with the Song of Healing, as we'll see, and benevolent influences and such like that, the transmutation that Link, performs in the land of Termina, which is the last game took place in Hyrule. This takes place in Termina, which has terminate in is kind of encoded in the word, an end to things, an end comes to all things. So there's some interesting correlation there. I'm just showing you more of the town here for now. And then it's going to show you the top of Clock Tower, which this 3-day cycle that you repeat within this game. The last game had a flow where it was you go 7 years in the future and then you travel back 7 years in the past. This all takes place within the same 3 days. There's a festival going on at the end of the 3-day period, which is kind of like a beacon of hope in its own way. But this apocalyptic doom is about to take place or transpire when this carnival's going on. Right after the fireworks go off. Here's the Skull Kid, at the top of the tower. There's the moon that's about to crash into the world. Now, as we all know in esoteric symbolism, the moon is feminine. There's an item you gain later on called the moon's tear. I don't know if there's any connection so much with the moon's tear, but moon is symbolic of the element of water as well. So those are some things to take into account. But here it's not just a normal moon either. It's has a very terrifying face. Just a couple things I wanted to mention there real quick. So it's almost like it has more of a consciousness about it. It's more of an intelligence, which in the occult, the planets and stuff are all governing intelligences anyway. This talks about the hero of a boy from Hyrule. He became a legend, and then he crept away from the land that had made him a legend. We talked about the loneliness of the hero's journey in the last video. Done with the battles he once waged across time, he embarked on a journey, a secret and personal journey. And there are a lot of theories that this whole game, Majora's Mask, is that Link is somehow dead the whole time, or that it's a dream or something like that. And the game creators have verified that Termina is a physical place. These games are open to interpretation, so really you could see it however way you want to. I'm not here to dictate what is or isn't real, but just going off of what the game creators said, Termina really is like a physical place that Link visits after his adventures and stuff in Hyrule. And he's in search of a valuable friend, which is Navi, or Navi from the last game, not sure how you pronounce it. A friend with whom he parted ways when he finally fulfilled his heroic destiny. It never really goes into why they parted ways, because without Navi, I don't think he would have been able to enter the Kokiri Forest again, which that's kind of strange. And he meets with Zelda at the end. So here is Link wandering through the Lost Woods, it looks like, with Epona. Oh, I don't even know if you can see that. It just looks so bright and white. And I'm also using the original graphics in this video as well for the cutscenes. I could do some videos later where it's using more the Nintendo 3DS graphics. Okay, there, you're probably able to see it. Well, maybe a little bit better now. It's still pretty blurry though, this whole scene of Link being in the woods. There he is on Epona. Yeah, there's just so much glare on that. Sorry you're not able to really see that too much. There's Tattle and Tail, and I think their names are kind of interesting and symbolic in a way. One fairy's white, you can't really even see her. And then her brother, I think she's Tattle, and then Tail's her brother. I could have it mixed up, it could be the opposite way. A way to look at the Skull Kid too is he's not inherently evil in and of himself. It's the corruption of this dark mask, this mask that was used, you know, in hexing rituals and stuff by this ancient, you know, dark tribe or whatever. So it's hard to say what all powers are in the Majora's Mask. We know at the end of the game, obviously, Majora manifests himself, the deity or whatever, you know, being he is, as the final boss through the power of the mask. But he's essentially controlling Skull Kid, and it's an example of how one can become corrupted, essentially. Because the Skull Kid's not inherently evil, but he was already in an emotionally unstable place, and that just made it that much easier for the mask to take him over and such. Okay, there you can see the screen. Oh, there it got bright again. I feel like it's whenever Tattle, yeah, that area where it's really bright white, like on the screen, is where Tattle's at. So when she goes away, you'll be able to see the scene a little bit better. The lighting is just really strange. So we can go ahead and probably skip this part. This is where the chase takes place. The Skull Kid, he's also kind of like, you know, he's just annoying. He's the jokester. He plays around with Link's Ocarina. Something I've done before too is actually if you play Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon alongside the beginning of Majora's Mask, it lines up perfectly, which is kind of funny when Link climbs up these little log pedestals and stuff. There he goes, he falls into the abyss. And that's right when On the Run starts, after Breathe. So I thought that was kind of funny. So yeah, he's totally entered some kind of, the whole game, this Termina place, it's kind of like a Twilight realm, like a shadow type realm. And Majora's Mask is very much that to Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time's about the light. Majora's Mask is more about the darkness. It's more about death, it's more about chaos and destruction, whereas Ocarina of Time is solely the hero's journey. This is where Link learns that, you know, somehow the Skull Kid magically took Epona away from him. And Epona ends up on Romani Ranch. And this is where the Skull Kid curses Link and turns him into the Deku Scrub. And as you'll see later on in the game, we won't see it because it's not a cutscene, I don't think, but at the end of the credits, the butler that you meet around like the Deku Temple, I can't remember what that temple's called off the top of my head because we'll be getting into it later. But it's his son. It's the butler, the Deku Butler's son. His spirit is the one that's entrapped or within the mask, the Deku mask. There's spirits within each of the three masks. They hold the spirit of Damani or something like that. Is the Goron one. I can't remember what the Zora dude's name is. I'm just not remembering their names off the top of my head. But the masks basically hold their spirits or their souls, and then they're transformative masks. They transform Link. So yeah, basically the Deku Scrub is cursed. Link's cursed as the Deku Scrub here. And then yeah, Tattle gets caught up and bullying him and gets left behind from her brother. She decides to help Link out. Okay, and now we're about to get to the first kind of important character. This is the Happy Mask Salesman. in one of the lore videos, and I think they're pretty accurate on this. He's like a symbolic devil, and Link ends up making a deal with him. He's not just the simple character that was in the Ocarina of Time. He's traveled, you know, far and wide in search of new masks and stuff, and he's traveled to this land now in this parallel universe. And somehow he got his hands on Majora's Mask, but Majora's Mask got stolen from the Skull Kid. And then this is when he uses Link to get the mask back. And he's been following Link. That's kind of creepy. He's going to return him to his former self, he says. If you can get back the precious item that was stolen from you, I will return you to normal. And in exchange, all I ask is that you also get back my precious mask that the imp stole from me. What? Is it not a simple mask? And the reason that it's a deal with the devil is, in the end, after you beat the game, it says the dawn of a new day, but if you continue to play the game, you'll find out that you still have all your items and stuff, but it still has started out at the first day, and you can go and beat the bosses as Fierce Deity. If you have the Fierce Deity's mask, we'll get into that later. There's a lot of lore surrounding the Fierce Deity. That's quite an extensive subject, one that I'm still doing research on. It's pretty extraordinary, actually. I don't know if we'll get into that at all in this video. But this whole thing about the happy mask salesman, making the deal sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm trying to think about too many things at once, and I didn't take any notes or anything. So the deal with the devil. After you've beaten the game, you have all your items. It's the first day again. You've gone back to the first day. But you can go and beat the bosses, and what you find is that the people are still in their struggle. It's an eternal loop. So one of the theories, the best Majora's Mask one I've seen on YouTube is probably, it's about dark symbolism. If you look up Majora's Mask and the art of dark symbolism or something like that, that's a really good one. It talks about the infinite time loop that Link has gotten himself into. So he's in this domain, and he's basically the master of this domain, but all these people in this town are caught in this endless loop, and yeah, it's forever doomed to repeat that endless cycle. And that was kind of the trap that the Happy Mask salesman put Link into when he made this deal. That's one of the theories anyway. We may talk about it more later. He says it should not be a difficult task for you to accomplish this. The one thing is, I'm a very busy fellow. He must leave the place in 3 days. How grateful I would be if you could bring it back to me before my time here is up. Before his time here is up? Is he somehow connected to the moon? There's also a theory I've seen on YouTube as well, that he is the guy that sells pose in the castle marketplace, where the guard used to stand when you're a kid, the room with all the pots that you can go and break them with your sword and get the rupees out of. There's the guy who buys pose. You don't really know what being he is, but there's a video that talks about him potentially being the Happy Mask salesman. And the only other possibility other than that would be that he's the guard that was stationed there when you're a child, because he talks about ghosts, the study of ghosts and such being interesting, and that the doom of the world is actually going to be, it's an interesting subject for him, and that it's going to make for a much more interesting world. That's a whole theory in and of itself. He says you'll be fine because you're young and you'll find it right away. He's counting on you, blah, 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 blah. Okay, dawn of the first day, 72 hours remain, which these are actually 72 minutes in the game. And if you play the Song of Time backwards on the ocarina, or any of your instruments that you have, I think you can use any of the instruments, it'll slow down the current of time in this game. You can also speed up the current of time in this game if you want to, as in you can skip to the next morning, or till nighttime. So yeah, it speeds up time. You have to go find the Great Fairy at this point. The Great Fairy gives you the bubble magic spell so that you can That's not really part of the lore. That's just kind of what you have to do in the game to get the item. Okay, we're going further. So this fairy is, what's her name? Let's see. She is a great fairy of magic. And she puts the magic meter up there for you. So at this point you have magic that you can use. It's this bubble power that you use, and you need to use that to burst the bubble. And then the Bombers Club, I think they're called, they take note of you, and then they all go hide and you have to capture them. You go to the underground tunnel, which leads to the astronomy tower. And he's kind of like the astronomer's like the old hermit dude, you know, that hangs out in Clocktown. He's probably the wisest person, I would say, in Clocktown, because he kind of lives isolated away from everyone. He's like the old ancient, you know, hermeticist dude. The man who lives in the observatory outside of town may know about the Skull Kid's whereabouts, but be careful. You must not underestimate the Skull Kid's powers. Once you return to your former shape, you return to her, and she imbues you with a different type of power. There's the balloon bursting I was just talking about. You have to go and find all these bomber kids. Okay. And I'm not sure why they're called the Bombers Club. It's kind of a weird name. Okay, so this is when you're looking through the telescope at the astronomy tower, the moon's tear falls down. I don't know if it's probably not going to give us an explanation of the moon's tear in this video, because this is just the cutscenes from the game. Yep, it's skipping ahead. Okay, that's the scarecrow that dances when you speed up time and you go to either the next morning or you go to the night of the day that you're already on. Let's see what else we have here. This is when the carnival actually takes place. So this is like at the end of this is the third night, essentially right before the moon, like 5 minutes before the moon crashes into the world. And let's just talk about the symbolism of the moon, you know, kind of leering over the world. It's a constant reminder to the town of death. And when we look at a lot of mystery school type things, you know, symbols like the skull or the skull and bones, or there's many others, an hourglass represents time. There's many of these things that remind us to take time into account and to cherish our time. And these people, it's a constant reminder that they don't have much time. So these symbols of death, there's many of them, you know, in esoterica. And the moon, you know, is always symbolizing this current of energy, because it's always looming above you the whole time you're playing the game, getting closer as it comes closer to time for the destruction of the world, which just so coincidentally, you know, lines up with when the Happy Mask salesman needs to leave town. It's like he's in on the whole thing, maybe, like he knows. He's some kind of weird spiritual entity. So here is the Skull Kid, right below the moon. Let's see if he has anything interesting to say. There's Tail, or Tattle. Oh, yeah, Tail. Skull Kid, give back the mask. And this is when even Tattle and Tail realize, you know, that the Skull Kid's he's too mean. Tail is giving the clues to the four giants. And the four giants, we'll learn more about them later on in the game, but they're basically, their souls are locked away in each of these four masks, and you have to go and defeat the four beasts of these dungeons to unlock the giants. The giants are in each of the four quarters of the land. The west is the ocean realm, so that does line up with the west, you know, in ceremonial magic being equated with water. The south is the wood region, which I've said before in previous videos, if you're doing the LBRH, Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Hexagram, the earth is in the south. The east is the canyon, which typically the element of air is in the east. The east represents, you know, the rising sun. It's the golden dawn. Illumination is very much represented by the east, the rising sun, Horus, all of these things. So I don't know if there's much correlation with the Canyon of Icana, but there's a lot of knowledge that came from, you know, the Icana and all that culture. That's a whole other lore in and of itself. And then the north, the place which would traditionally be the place of darkness and magic, is the mountain realm. It's the snow mountain. That's where the Garons are in this game. But also these four giants, I'll just go ahead and talk about it though a little bit. They kind of act as, they're kind of like demigods, but they're also, they're equated to, in Buddhism, there are fierce deities, and in the middle is the fierce deity, but there's guardians at each of the four quarters. We've also talked about these guardians in stuff like Madame Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine. There are four guardian spirits, which are even, they're referred to as the builders, and they're even above, I think, even the archangels sometimes. And of course the archangels, the four quarters we know with ceremonial magic and just Western ceremonial esotericism or magic in general, how those correlations all correspond. So this four giants in this game has many different correspondences. Yeah, and that's where they say, like, do you think you're still our friend after that? You're not so sure anymore. Some kind of dark magic he just released there. The ocarina drops, and then you are able to, you have a flashback. And see, this kind of answers my question to the last video, because Link is talking to Zelda, and she's seeing him off, essentially. He's leaving the land of Hyrule. So I'm assuming that she remembers everything from when she was an adult in the last game too, but I could be wrong. So there is somebody that Link does have to talk to after he's, you know, finished the quest in the Ocarina of Time. He's not just alone the whole time, with no one else who understands. You are already leaving this land of Hyrule, aren't you? And it's also said that Link is known as a legend in the land too. He's leaving the land that, you know, made him a legend. Oop. I want to read this real quick. Let's see. Even though it was only a short time, I feel like I've known you forever. I'll never forget the day we spent together in Hyrule. And I believe in my heart that a day will come when I shall meet you again. Until that day comes, please take this. I am praying that your journey be a safe one. If something should happen to you, remember this song. So the love of Princess Zelda for Link, with the combination of this song, basically in his dire need at this moment when the Skull Kid has the power of the moon, is about to crash into Termina and mess everything up. Link remembers this song, and it's kind of funny because he remembers the Song of Time, but he doesn't pull out an ocarina because when he picks it up from the ground, he's the Deku Scrub still, and the Deku Scrub has like this trumpet instrument, like a bunch of little trumpets. The goddess of time is protecting you. If you play the Song of Time, she will aid you. Of course, this reoccurring theme of time, you know, the whole time in these games, just perpetually. He's lost in memories. Get yourself together. Goddess of time, help us, please. We need more time. When did you get that instrument? So basically, Link has to use the ocarina to go back in time, repeat these 3 days so that he can free the guardians of each of the four quarters, and then they will come forth to help and assist in preventing the destruction of the world. essentially that's the whole goal of the game, is to save the world by awakening the four spirits, the four quarters. And that's pretty much the whole beginning of the game, right there. There's another cutscene just kind of like showing you some of the things that happened in the very beginning. You got cursed as the Deku Scrub. And you meet back up with the Happy Mask Salesman. And it's the dawn of the first day again. So what just happened, everything has started over. What are you anyway, that instrument, that song you played, that instrument? Wait, that's it, your instrument. The mask salesman said that if you got back the precious thing that was stolen from you, he could return you to normal. Yep, okay, and we will go ahead and end the video here. Next Majora's Mask video I do will pick up from here where we left off. Right when Link is about to basically get himself restored to his prior self, he will retake his human shape. And in the process, they use the Song of Healing to basically convert the curse into the mask, which then continues to hold the spirit of the Deku Scrub, which was originally taken, I guess, to place the curse on Link in the first place, is probably what sapped the life from the Deku Scrub, the other Deku Scrub, and then his spirit is put in the mask. Link can use that mask. It's basically like a talisman that changes him, it transforms him into that form. So, alrighty guys, I think I've done enough YouTube for today. I hope you enjoy these video game videos. They're really fun. It's a little more chill, a little more relaxed. Not quite as serious as the magical studies, but we'll be getting back into that stuff soon as well, because I have more information to share. I've been comparing more information about just figuring out properly when to do LVRPs and lesser invoking rituals, differences that you can use in them, and then I will share my whole curriculum as well at some point. We'll work on all that stuff together more. So peace and love, everybody, and have a great day.